get Nikes from Astor, you won't see hit the stores for 6 months.
All right, Style Speaks, episode 1. I'm excited. I'm elated. This is the first one. My guest, Astor Chambers.
Yes, sir.
Man, yo, I can go on forever. You know what they say. The intro of this man, I didn't know everything about you until I looked up. But 20 plus years marketing.
Yeah.
Sports and entertainment industry.
Yes.
You know, obviously a believer, father, husband, friend. I know when we met, we spoke this stuff. I'll talk about it later. Purpose-filled. Purpose,
yeah.
Having purpose with everything you do. But I don't know if they know, Senior Director of Statement. Mm-hmm. That title alone for me, Senior Director of Statement, this is Style Speaks, right? So we're talking about how does style speak for you. But Senior Director of Statement for Adidas, that's all the music collaborations for the brand globally.
Outside of Easy.
Outside of, so you work with Beyonce.
Yep. Ninja.
Yep. Pharrell.
Yep.
Yara, Shahidi.
Yep.
And the new guy you just got, Kerwin.
Yes. Amazing.
To name a few.
Amazing.
So, you know, like I said, when I wanted to do the show, I'll tell you the story. So I wanted to do the show. We were setting up doing episode 0. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, come in here. I don't know, for whatever reason, I had a hunch. I was like, you know what? Astor's the perfect first guest. What the show is about is lifestyle, it's branding, it's culture. I was like, he's the perfect first guest. And but another thing, the reason why I wanted to have you on, we spoke on a panel discussion last year. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you said to me, or what you said to the crowd, was in your transition from when you were working with Nike and you became the manager of your daughter.
Yes.
And you said something, and I'm not going to say it verbatim, but you said something to the tune of, you know, it's a bigger purpose. Mm. And for you to leave that to manage your daughter, for me being a father, I was like, hey, that's special. And so that even more so now, of course, was before even hearing about the time we got the Kobe Bryant, and then, you know, you have the girl dad hashtag going on now. But it's just weird how that works out. So for me, like I said, I knew you'd be the best first guest, but let's go back to the beginning. I know you're from New York.
Yes, born and raised.
Born and raised. And so for me, I say style speaks. So when I started doing wardrobe branding, I did a lot of movies. I watched movies, and what the person said that I was working with, she was like, look, watch movies and see how the character's essence comes through from what they're wearing. And so I always could attune to the nonverbal communication of what they were wearing. But for me, style speaks is not only what you wear, it's how you act, it's who you are. So growing up in New York at that time, I can only imagine that had to be a pivotal, super impact into determining who you are today. So how did that impact like what you are and what you came about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you look at New York, early 80s, 90s is, I think, the real formative years for me.
Absolutely.
And when you look at what was taking place at that time, fashion and style was evolving, because that was at a time where clothing was one of the things that defined you, right? You had certain brands that resonated on a whole nother level. And I never forget Ralph Lauren.
Yes.
Jabot.
Yeah.
Hilfiger.
Yep.
Nautica. All these were brands that had a space within this youth culture realm that wasn't even a tag just yet. Nobody knew what to call it.
Yeah, because I always say style is identity, even today.
It is. It's
and
very much so.
More so.
But part of that identity comes with the brands that you associated yourself with, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're not able to validate your identity sometimes if the first thing that people see is your outward style is not one of being validated or justified or cool or hot or relevant. Yeah. Sometimes people don't even give you a chance to find out who you're about. Not to say that you dress or present yourself in a certain way so that you can be received. Yeah. But if you're also comfortable in that which you are wearing, people then get to see and feel what it is that you have within outside of these material items. Yeah. But going back to your question about New York is the epicenter of everything. And I know I'm biased, but I'm also saying a fact right now. And with that epicenter, you have so many different types of people, so many different types of styles that come together in one, literally, pot, right? Where they talk about like a gumbo, when you bring all these different things together that all work together, but they're all very distinctly different. New York, you had to be comfortable with who you were within that, right? And one of the things that I grew up with was this notion of, you know, you have to be confident about being yourself, right? Because when you think about it, a original always holds more value than a copy.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
And I think the more you try to be more like someone else or something else, you are really doing yourself and everyone around you a disservice.
Absolutely.
New York built that in me.
Okay, yeah. So it set the foundation for you to be original.
Absolutely.
I always say to these people I'm giving talks or presentations, I'm like, you are the secret sauce. Like, it's you. And even for myself, I realize, like, whenever I'm at a crossroads or a question or something, I'm like, I lean into who I am more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the differentiator. When I look at myself in the marketplace, even people, skill sets, you're good at something or not. I tell people, a lot of people can dress people or things like that. But me being me to the utmost is what makes me different. And my view, my scope, my lens, the narratives I'm trying to say, that's what's unique. And that's the only thing that I have that's unique for the most part.
Well, that's the only thing that we all have.
Yeah.
And I think that is a key point in life right
Absolutely.
now. And I think that's at the epicenter of what diversity really means.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity is a notion of bringing the secret sauce that you have to the table and not diluting it down so that your sauce can taste like everybody else's. If that's the case, there's no need for you to come to the party. And there's really no need. You're not bringing that value.
You're not adding anything. You're bringing it to the table.
You're not bringing anything more to the table. So again, I go back to my other point. You're doing yourself a disservice, but also the people who, in some cases, they're trying to make you be like them, make your sauce similar to their sauce, as opposed to embracing your sauce to help amplify their sauce. You're doing them a disservice. Yeah. So while it's their gut, because there's some people who live in a place of comfort, right? And the place of comfort is making sure that everything around them is in relation to things that make them feel safe and good, which the majority of times is do as I say, do as I want, or as I'm articulating.
Yeah.
Where
follow my lead.
Follow my lead, right? But if you actually do that, you're really not helping that individual.
No.
You're not.
Yeah.
The more you bring your secret sauce to the table, the better, because same is the same. You're going to get the same result. You can't look for a different result while having the same type of thought, feel, and approach.
I was doing research for this interview, and I came across an interview you had, and you said something along the lines, essentially what you were just saying, be comfortable with being different. And you said you preach that to your daughters. It's something you do all the time. And I hear, I'm like, that resonated with me, because like I said, you have to find comfort in that, and you have to lean on that. And like I said, what I was just saying, lean into who I am and understand that is a uniqueness. That is more than enough, and that's what you need to put on display. And so when I'm talking to people with brands, I'm like, yo, you need to show who you are. And what's funny is going to the people that they say be like me or follow my lead, what I've realized, especially over these last probably say 12 to 18 months, is people are uncomfortable with showcasing themselves and showcasing their true selves. And I realized the more I'm able to do that, the more impact I not only make, but the more difference I make in how I'm seen, because I'm like, I'm only me. And I've always been a contrarian kind of by nature. My parents, the way they grew up, I was always kind of contrarian anyway. But then we were talking before we came on, I was saying, like, I had to come to the point too with, hey, I want to be different, but I just don't want to be different also for the sake of being different. Yeah. I want to be different, so
it makes you look the same.
Exactly. So there was that. So you grew up in New York at the epicenter of culture.
Yes.
At the time where hip hop, rap music, the birth, everything was going on. At the birth. And then you go to HBCU.
Yep.
So when you're doing that, how did that impact you, and when did you kind of figure out you want to get into this industry that you're in? Because you've kind of been in the sports and entertainment for 20 years.
But it actually started then, like my senior year of high school.
Okay.
I went to the Fame High School for those.
I heard that.
So those who might be a little bit older and know what that TV show was, and Leroy dancing on tables, but it was an arts high school. It was a specialized arts high school.
Okay.
And I was an artist. Okay. And that was
it was paint.
Paint, pencil, watercolor, acrylic, all those different things. That was my early passion as a youth. Got accepted into this high school. Was there for 4 years. Amongst other amazingly talented musicians, instrumental players, actors, dancers. Those were the different forms of art. And in doing that, I had the opportunity to meet a lady who came to our school to find the correlation between arts and sports. Okay. Took her around for the day to come to find out later that she was like, I really enjoyed your company. Would you mind coming to the office to talk some more about products? She worked for Nike. Who to this day is still one of my dearest friends. But from that day in my senior year of high school, remember, that was not an industry then. Yeah. What we are now living and speaking to and seeing different brands creating activations and initiatives against was not an industry. That was not an
Didn't
industry.
exist.
Didn't exist.
Yeah.
This was at the beginning. I'm part of that generation that literally were the first set of consumers that procured product as a means of expression. Footwear, right? I spoke about the apparel companies earlier, but footwear had no presence.
Yeah.
We were the first consumers that actually bought a running shoe, not to run in, but because we thought it was a great reflection of who we wanted to be. So it changed the dynamic of conversation then, right? Where people would look at you in terms of what you have on as a top and as a bottom. Where now it literally starts
with the shoes.
With shoes and then up.
So
in meeting her in high school and then getting exposed to the brand and the industry at that age and at that time, where I was literally taking designers and marketers into my neighborhood, to the different basketball courts and the different places where we used to shop and the different communities where we used to hang out, to enlighten them as to why people are gravitating to the brand and get to know who they are. This is the true form of focus groups and marketing travel, which again didn't exist, had no name of what it was. And now this is part of literal brand business plans and initiatives to get after, to do in order to validate campaigns. So I think, not how did I know I got into this, I guess I kind of just grew and fell somewhat into it, because it's not like a role like a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, where we all know what you have to do to get into those things, right? And certain subjects you have to take. Didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was God's plan of putting me in position and with certain people at certain times, where it just evolved into it.
You know, it's interesting because people ask me, I started like as a wardrobe stylist, and I've always been into fashion. Always been into fashion. You know, won best dress in junior high. I think I talked about this. Should have won in high school. And I think you will continue
to talk about it, because you don't want nobody to forget that.
Nah. So it's always been in me. But what was interesting at the time, people don't realize back then, because I'm older too. If you can draw, I considered being like a designer, but I couldn't draw. So I was like, okay, I can't draw. At that time, I'm in middle school. I can't draw. I can't be a designer. Now you have people that can do it for you.
That's right.
You just give them the information, the ideas, and the concepts to do it for you. But at that time, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. So fast forward, 20 years, and here I am in finance, and I come to the concept of, and you can attest to this, if you're someone dressed up in Portland on any day of the week, they're like, who are you? Where are you from? What's going on? This is an event. And I'm like, hey, this is me. I'm branding myself. But I was intentional about it.
Right.
And so as I'm doing that and working with other businesses, and I'm seeing how they're not representing themselves through their image and their wardrobe, I'm like, I can help. And so I had no intention of ever doing fashion after like middle school. I mean, I would do it for myself, and I've always appreciated and loved it. But I had no intention of ever doing it for myself until it came full circle. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I can help these people. Let me do an event. I did an event that was successful, and that springboarded into doing other things. But I want to touch on what you mentioned, because I think people, it's a foreign concept to people that don't know. Running shoes.
Yes.
Not to run in.
Yeah.
That's what everyone does. You wear running shoes all the time. It's a part of the culture. But that time, you had to really explain to them, hey, no, we're actually wearing these shoes not to run in. Basketball shoes not to play basketball in. How did that go? How did they take that information?
I think it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It was definitely mind-blowing, because you got another lesson in life. There's so many lessons in life that translate in so many different things that you deal with or you have to handle. And I think you can't fault somebody for not knowing what they don't know.
Absolutely.
Right? So you talk about companies that are based in the middle of Oregon, when I'm in New York.
In the 80s and 90s.
In the 80s and 90s. Perspective.
Yeah. I grew up here, so I knew what that was like.
It's still a far cry now.
Exactly.
So just imagine in the 80s and 90s. It's like
Oregon?
What? They're looking around like, this is different.
Yeah.
So I think part of different is, how do you help educate people? And educating people in a way where it's not putting them down or making them feel less than. It's in a way of, I'm providing you with the tools so that you can better go about what it is that you do, which then benefits us.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just going to make more stuff that aligns with who we are and how we want to express ourselves. There have been these brands for years that have been doing this great job with us. As I mentioned some earlier, Ralph Lauren, Hilfiger, Nautica, Girbaud. They figured out how to speak to this consumer set in an authentic way. And really the consumers embraced it as such. But then it was like the next thing that had to happen was footwear. It had to. When you just look at it from the head to toe, it had to be footwear. And when you had brands like Adidas, like Nike, who were coming up in these early years with different things, it wasn't the brands, it was the consumers that clicked and said, wait a minute, that's actually going to be just cool for me to just wear.
Yeah.
Like, I like how that looks.
And the silhouettes.
The silhouettes, the way it sits with my pants and my Coca-Cola sweatshirt. I remember Coca-Cola had a line of clothing that was a beast.
Exactly.
And it was this, at Benetton, it was just a simple
Well,
color hooks.
I think Kith, they just had a Coca-Cola collab
Yeah,
recently.
so there was one years ago when
Okay.
they first did their line of clothing when I was a youth, heavily sought after, could not afford it, personally.
Yeah.
But it was something that I always wanted to be able to procure, but I had to stick with the Gaps of the world and things to that degree and put it together for what worked for me.
Yeah.
And my budget.
And you know, but though, like, out of constraints, you know, that's what brings
creativity. Absolutely.
Yes.
There was a was it TJ Maxx or one of these doors where my mother, because living in the city, she'd go to Jersey every Saturday to shop because there was no taxes.
Okay.
So when doing that, there was these stores like Sims and Filene's Basement.
Never heard of it.
And how about that? I'm about to school you. This is all about education,
There
bro.
you go.
So Filene's Basement would have different lines of product at a discounted price. So at this point, Girbaud jeans were the jean of choice, and they were super expensive. Filene's Basement would get, whether they're the slightly manufactured improperly or whatever, defective, but you really can't see it, they would have some Girbaud product in there for a seriously reduced price.
Got you.
So I would then go with my mom on Saturdays while she's grocery shopping. After grocery shopping, can we make a quick run to Filene's Basement so I could see what I can grab? Guess was huge back then. I need a little Guess t-shirt with a little embroidery on the chest, some Girbaud jeans. And so you figure it out for what makes sense for you. For those who are very, what I call style conscious. I'm not into fashion because fashion changes.
Fashion changes.
Fashion changes. Like, your style is what carries through all your life.
Exactly.
And I can definitely say I've had a style that's carried through all my life and will continue to, even to the detriment of my wife and I in our relationship sometimes. Because I tell you, 20 years or 15 years ago, when we started dating, one of my things was I would never get dressed up to the standard in which dressed up meant.
Yeah.
Meaning, we can go to a formal outing. I'm not putting on a suit. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna put a mean blazer, a mean button down, jeans, sneakers or shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be just right and then some for the event. And I've always had that approach. And again, I say detriment to my wife because she would be so hot. You're always going against the rules, doing you. And I'm like, doing you. Me.
Exactly.
I'm always gonna be myself and not a copy.
But when you have style, you can do that. When you have style, you can do that.
And when you carry yourself in a way like, I'm supposed to be in the building. Yeah. I'm supposed to be in the building in the way in which I am. That energy exudes throughout.
People can feel it. You know,
people feel it.
When I started, I always tell people, when I tell them today, the reason why I've had the success I've had is because I never considered myself a stylist a Portland stylist.
Portland, right.
I was a stylist in Portland.
Yeah,
I just happened to be here.
You just happened to be.
This is where they brought me down.
Right.
I'm in here, but
this is where you've been planted and where you're growing.
Exactly. But as far as my style, where I look to for styling cues, how I want to represent myself through what I'm wearing, just the aura I give off, it's never been about Portland. And I was like, I refuse
to assimilate to what
they want me to do. And because
there you go.
And because of that, I stood out. Right.
But
and
you were your you're your authentic you. So now part of your role and your responsibility is showing the strength in being your authentic self. It goes back to what I said before. An original is always worth more than a copy.
Yeah. An
original. But what it also does is it unlocks that in other people. Mm-hmm. If people can see that somebody else is confident enough, bold enough to step out and do them, can I not?
You have the courage. To do it themselves.
The courage. And that was one of the main reasons why I left the job that I left to go with my daughter. Okay. Because her gift that she was given was one that needed to be unlocked to further inspire thousands of other people that I wouldn't have been able to do in my current role, right? But through my daughter and the gift that she was given, we had to allow for that to have a platform to touch and inspire many youth, adults, black, white, European, all different types. That could have not happened had I stayed in my box.
The role, yeah.
In my role.
I would say there's genius in audacity. And I feel like, and again, not doing things just for that, just to get a response. But like I said, I've realized the more that I do being my true self, the more that I realize I'm doing things that might be uncomfortable to other people, but I'm comfortable in it. Not only is it good for me, but it's good for them, to your point.
Yep.
Like they're like, okay,
Yep.
he does that. He's okay with doing that.
Yep.
And especially I feel like when you've aspired or you've hit any type of level of success in any means, when you still are willing to do that, it even gives them even more courage. Like, well, if he can do that, I can do it.
Let's stay on that point when you talk about success. So for me, success is when you bring value to yourself, right? Success, I don't want to say it's easy, but that's success. What we're about is significance. Significance is when you bring value to others.
There you go.
That's the real play. Well, that's the real play for me.
Yes.
I'm about significance. How am I providing value for others? That's the real unlock, because I'm not going to be able to accomplish everything that I would like in terms of how do we make the real change in this world and in culture that we know is necessary.
Yeah.
But if you can provide that significance and that value for others to invest figuratively in all these other people and unlock and inspire them to do the things that they've been gifted to do, because we all are born with a gift.
Absolutely.
That's when we're really doing some things. Yeah. And again, I go back to my daughter. That was the significance.
Yeah.
Right? Because that added value to not only her, but many, many, many others at a pretty big, major level that only God could have orchestrated.
Yeah.
That. Well, they're going on Broadway, like really?
and that's like, you know, there's a lot of talent they might not know in the Chambers household.
Oh,
there's a lot of talent in that household. I don't want to not touch on that, but I want to go back to you went to HBCU,
yeah,
and then you were gonna work at Nike, right? You're trying out that now. Is it the Eakin? The Eakin position.
Nike spelled backwards.
Okay, Nike spelled backwards. Yeah. And then I just want to kind of go how you transition from that to now director of statement.
Yeah. So
I know you've had the stops. You've had the Nike position.
Oh yeah,
and
within that, I've had the trials, the tribulations, which are all part of the journey.
Absolutely.
I think that's the other thing, and I hope things like this give people a perspective of all these things do not come without any struggle.
No, and actually, and I'm glad you say that. I want you to expand on that, because I feel like people think it just happens.
Oh, it's so far.
It's so far from the
just
truth, and
happening.
It's like you don't
and
realize.
Guess what? What they all need to do is start to recognize and realize that the struggle and the adversity is part of the journey. It's a significant part, and if you don't have
necessary.
If you don't have it,
yeah,
then you should worry.
Absolutely,
because you're probably not on the right track.
It's so necessary, and and what I started to realize is I looked at what I want to aspire to become, what I want to aspire to influence, or whatever, what my legacy, what I'm reaching for. The trials and tribulations, they are unique to me. They're unique to the goal I've set for myself.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's a part of the process. You can't go about it. You can't cut corners. You can't overcome it. And looking back, the few things that I've done, it's like, I had to go through that, because that pulled out more of me or something else in me, or let me realize, or humble me, whatever was, made me more aware to like, hey, okay.
Listen.
I have to do this.
You have to. And a lot of people, and again, it's our natural human behavior. But I think the more we can give tools to the youth to apply earlier, they can be more advanced when they get to different stages of their lives like us, right? So I say all that to say, the gem that we want to share with people now is, we constantly look at things like, why did that happen to me?
Yeah.
Like, why did that happen to me? You need to flip that and say, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me.
Yes.
Right? So the for me, all that was intended and needed to unlock what was next for you to truly get after and be able to do, because it challenged you and brought you to that new space and provided whatever that new tool is.
Yep.
Everybody's scenario is different, but it provided that for you to be able to be ready for that next thing. So no longer do I utter the why did that happen to me?
Yeah.
I say thank you that it happened for me. And I thank the individuals because we so often want to have that anger and that hate and that disdain for the individuals who had to act out these certain things.
Yeah.
Where now I'm actually grateful because they played the role within my story, my journey, and I pray for them.
And I would say, like, it doesn't happen for you, not to you. It happens for you, like you said. That doesn't mean it's easier when you're going through it.
No.
But that shift in perception makes
in perspective.
In perspective makes it you can it's like, okay, I can deal with
Yeah.
it. Right? It's happening for me. Now I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, human nature. I don't want to have to go through
Yeah.
this. But inevitably it's a necessary step. So, okay, going back to, so like I said, Nike,
Yes.
Eakin, Vi.
Yeah,
so all
so-
these
so
roles
started
that led to
where we are today.
today.
So I started out, my first role was a tech rep with Nike, and just to be clear, I didn't get the first one that I interviewed for. Now, when you think about it, at that point, I'd had 5 years of doing things with the brand at a very critical time of feeding them information from a consumer standpoint.
Now, were you on the payroll then? Were you actually
No,
employed
it wasn't
then?
but it was a different type of payroll that worked out even better back then, where I was getting the product
There you go.
before anybody else. So
Yeah.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
And so that currency, that social currency that I had
man.
then was...
Especially where you were at.
I
can
was in
imagine.
Maryland. I'm
Yeah,
coming to school with the new J's, and people were like, "Yo, those are not the new J's." I'm like, "Actually, they are."
Yeah,
And,
they're going to be
so
here
it
eventually.
It was a, what we call a floss factor that definitely was worth way more
Absolutely.
than any amount of money. And so did that for like 4 years, but also every summer I worked at Foot Locker.
Okay.
Because I was told and educated that if I want to work in this industry, that you need to have retail experience. So another thing is, it's all about your choices, right? Because I could have chose to say, well, nah, I'm not going to need to do that because I already got these relationships, so it's not going to happen. But no, I worked at Foot Locker every summer, got very in tune with consumer buying habits, engaging with consumers in the whole 9 yards. To graduated from college, I think on like a Saturday, and that Monday had my first interview, didn't get that job. They took somebody who they felt had more experience at the time.
That person that you shadowed, right?
That shadow.
Yeah, okay,
and no, the irony of this is, who's still one of my dear friends was in my wedding, was Laz Alonso.
Yes.
Who's a big time
actor and
now.
BT and host and all that.
He was so inspiring, and his story is so incredible because he's one who went to another HBCU, Howard.
Okay.
And when he graduated from Howard, he told himself he was going to work on Wall Street. Now, as an African American male back then, that was not the thing.
An avenue.
It wasn't a reality.
Yeah,
It wasn't
exactly.
a real reality. Weren't too many examples of that. But this was a goal that he set. Set that goal and did it. He said, one day I want to work for Nike. Set that goal. He did it.
Yeah.
Says, one day I want to become an actor. Set that goal. He did it. So
go.
consistently I've seen this man as a dear friend of mine who I look to and say, he's one who's put energy out into the universe, and that energy was reciprocated in every interaction and everything that he did. So that, another thing, the power of your words.
Yeah.
The power of your words, they're so powerful. When you put things out in the energy, out in the universe, that energy, good, bad, or indifferent, are manifested around that.
Speak it into existence.
Speak it into existence.
And then
but again,
act upon it.
And act upon it, right? But even the speaking into existence, that can come on the negative side
Absolutely,
too.
yeah.
You
It
speak
works
about
both
this,
ways.
woe is me, I can't get this, it's not going to happen. You right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're painting that picture.
Yeah.
So just having the example of his friendship and seeing him paint his pictures and put them into existence was critical. So yes, I got to shadow him for about 6 months, and then there was another job that became available in New York, and then I got that one. So when you just look at how God scripts things out, that's how it was supposed to happen. I was supposed to be able to shadow an individual, not only for the role, but for that sensibility that he provided me with by telling me, everything I've put my energies into and put out into the universe, I've done.
Yeah.
I've been able to do that. So did that for about 2 years, and I went a non-traditional route after that role, in taking a role in entertainment marketing there. And entertainment marketing was interesting because there was no presence in the East Coast outside of the Marina Del Rey office that we had in LA at that point. Now, this was when
Is this with Nike? That's still with Nike?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is now 98. So you think about,
Okay.
Rockefeller Records, you think about all these different individuals and labels that were super influential. And this was at the
peak.
peak of product placement.
Yes.
Product placement. This was a
Okay.
big thing. And product placement before you had to pay people. It was truly product placement because these individuals had either a relationship or a relationship with the brand that was so deep that they were willing to put something on
They had
and
affinity
represent
with
it.
the brand
Yeah, like
regardless.
represented it. Like, look, I'm proud about where that was significant. Where today it's very different. It's dictated by a number of different things.
Yeah.
But I had the opportunity to be the one arm on the East Coast that was building all the relationships with all these up and coming artists, i.e. the Ja Rules of the world and the Eves of the world and the Fabulouses of the world, who I built a great relationship with and actually dropped a verse.
Yeah, I was saying,
yeah.
you're in the song.
But again, that is one of the
We
things.
have to cue that. What song? What song is it? What song is it?
Keep It a Gangster. No, was it Keep It a Gangster? I think it was. But it's one of those things where, you know, it was the power of relationship building. It was also the power that brands and connections that brands had with individuals coming up in their respective upbringings. And it was very powerful, super powerful, because I think that then took a number of brands and industries to new places. When you look at the liquor industry and how they benefited tremendously off of this culture and these individuals mentioning, always having it around.
Oh yeah.
Sales went through the roof.
I remember when Hypnotic first came out.
There you go.
Literally, and the first time I had it, I was actually at a 50 Cent concert in LA. They didn't have it in Portland yet.
Yeah.
We were in LA at a 50 Cent concert, and I was like, "Oh, they got the Woo Hypnotic, by the way." And I was only exposed to it through the music, through the culture, and literally never tasted it, right? But it was literally that influence that the culture had in the music, and it was like that was my frame of reference.
That's right.
And I went there and I sought it out. And I was like, oh. And then, of course, at that time, you know, it wasn't social media. That would have been a shareable moment at that time because you'd be like, yo, I'm in LA having Hypnotic. Nobody else has it yet. You can do that back then. But it was like that was the influence of the culture, and everything from where you wore to, you know, everything was that.
Yeah, so I played a key role in building those relationships and kind of that foundation and infrastructure. And then left the brand. And I think for a number of reasons, I hadn't lived anywhere else outside of New York to that point, outside of college. And Vibe approached me with an opportunity to go live in San Francisco, heading up all their corporate business. Oddly enough, which was managing accounts like Nike, Adidas, Levi's, Gap, because all the corporate clients were starting to understand or needing to understand how important this culture, consumer, and market was. Because, like, think about the time. This is 2000 now.
Yeah.
2000. So people, companies aren't getting it. They're seeing their numbers go up exponentially, similar to that of what Nike did when we first started having engagements when I was a senior in high school. Now you have all these corporate clients who are like, wait, this consumer shifts things, but we don't know if we want to really be in bed with them, so to say. So I had to go to a magazine and not only sell the physical publication, I had to sell the culture.
And what's interesting about that is their numbers are going up from a culture or a segment of population that they aren't even marketing to. Correct. They aren't even taken care of. To your point,
absolutely
trying to sell, and you can convince
them. So part of the taking care of,
exactly.
You need to be in this magazine.
Exactly.
Okay, because you got to understand that this consumer they put you on their back. They're carrying you right now. This consumer's carrying you. So while at this time, this was called the urban market. Yeah. So that was the code for African American, crime, dangerous, don't know if I really wanna, right? Those were the claims that they had around it, where I had to educate them on, no, it's actually youth culture that's way broader than any of that small component that you just walked through. Let me show you how.
Exactly.
And you are already playing within this, but the fact that you're really not speaking to can be a point of no return, because this consumer is also very, very smart and very cognizant of those brands that are taking advantage, but not necessarily about the culture. Yeah. Now, it's not telling you to shift your whole approach and your marketing plans. Yeah. But what it is about is you would at least need to be in the places in which
and acknowledge.
And so, like I said, selling a publication in itself is tough, right? But now selling a culture before you can even sell the publication is a skill set that I had to drive and own when I took this job at Vibe, which was a great lesson for me.
Which is incredibly difficult because when I started going back to styling, they were like, Portland, Oregon, you're going to be a stylist in Portland, Oregon. You know, people don't know. That's what they call it, right?
I love that you're still saying Oregon.
Yeah,
that's how East Coast. That's how we say.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Oregon.
Yeah, exactly, Oregon. But the thing is, what I realized early on is I only narrowed my market because I realized there's only a few industries or a few types of individuals that would actually align with how I want to represent myself, right? Because I am a walking billboard as a stylist, especially.
We all are.
We all are. That's what I tell people, and we all are, whether you want to believe it or not. You know, you're a brand, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yes.
Right? So I'm a walking billboard.
Everybody.
And I'm like, I like dressing up. I actually happen, I like to dress up. And so I was like, there's only a few industries that make sense. And I knew early on, like, hey, in Portland, the culture here, the Portlandia culture, I can't, as a new business owner, try to convince you that this is important. Mm-hmm. I could only work with individuals where they already understood the concept or the conversation made sense. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it was whether or not they were going to work with me or they work with Nordstrom's or go to Mario's directly. Right. But it wasn't, I wasn't trying to convince you that, hey, style will matter. Because it's different, being a corporate entity versus a solopreneur. You don't have the budget and the marketing and the time to try to convince that consumer at first. They aren't the low-hanging fruit per se. Yeah. So I had to go up to people that actually understood it, and then and even now after you build it up, then you can actually expand. But I had to go very specific at first. So to try to convince someone of something that they are unaware of,
it's tough.
Is I can only imagine.
Super tough. Yeah. But again, it built a muscle. Yeah. It built a muscle. It exercised a muscle that I hadn't had to use before. That only added towards my arsenal of tools in my toolbox. So it was amazing. So I did that for a year. Another blessing was that's where I met my now wife.
Trey Renee.
Because she was from there and she was doing radio there. We met, started our friendship then started dating. And then when I was asked to move to New York for Vibe.
Can you touch on that story? Cause I heard that story about, because people that don't know Trey Renee. So they don't know. I met you through Trey. Because I was on Afternoon Live.
Absolutely.
I was on Afternoon Live at the time, and then we met at, I think, an SEI function. Yep. And then, and then became in contact. But they don't know Trey Renee. Yeah. The story that I heard about when you decided to start dating, I think this would illustrate who she is.
Very much illustrate who she is. So we were friends for a couple weeks and months, and, to the point where, we'd watch Sex and the City together. She'd come over for dinner, but it was just social. It was just friends, and it was all good. And then it got to a point where one day it triggered, like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be something more than this. This feels good, and we should take this to a next level. And when I presented that to her, typical Tracy Renee Chambers, a.k.a. Trey Renee, oh, man, why are you ruining this? This is all just so perfect the way it is. I'm going to need time to think about this. Yeah. So I'm going to go away for 2 days by myself. I'm going to take my convertible and drive to the coast. I'm going to have a bottle of wine and a book. And I'm going to check into a hotel. And I don't want you to call me. I want no contact. Because I just need to be in tune with me to figure out what it is I want to do with this ultimatum that you've now posed on me. And I'm going to come back on Friday. When I come back on Friday, we're going to meet at my girlfriend's birthday party. And if I kiss you on the lips, that means that during my time on this trip, I figured out that, yes, I want to take this to the next level. Needless to say, she came back on Friday, walked into this party, and
there, right away.
There it went. Go. Right. So her waiting to exhale moment and all that she had to do was to get to this point. Yeah. And now we're 16 years in of marriage. Yes. So
congratulations on that.
It was an interesting ordeal, and I'm trying to act all hard here. I think for them 2 days, I was probably like, yo, I hope she comes back and makes this right decision.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But no, so now 3 young ladies in, 3 beautiful girls. And we've been here. But yeah, so that was another one of the pieces of the chapter. Yeah. Was that obviously God's plan was I had to go there to meet her. Yep. Because I was literally only there for a year before they asked me to move back home to New York.
Gotcha.
And I said, look, I can't do it without you. Come with me. She says, I'd never been to New York before. I said, well, let's go on a house hunting trip. Let me know what you think. Well, afterwards, we'll make a decision. Yeah. We went house hunting, came back. She was like, I want to try it out. said, okay, the next piece that I put in my mind, if I can live with her for a year, I'm going to propose.
That's a telltale sign.
Yeah. So we lived together for a year in Jersey. I proposed, and we got married thereafter. Was with Vibe then for another 3 years.
Okay.
So I was put onto the liquor and tobacco list.
Got you.
Which was a fledgling list because it was during a time where the liquor companies were now having a ton of legal scrutiny being put on them in terms of advertising and branding to youth.
Okay.
So publications like Vibe that had a large under 21 year old population, we had to validate how we can do business with companies like that. So I had to creatively, with a team, come up with this package that was what we call the 21 plus package. So we were able to identify all the subscriber-based readers who were above 21 plus, and we were able to have them advertise in just those issues. So they were different from some of the issues that will go to newsstand or to other.
So you actually had different segments of the actual magazine.
Absolutely,
Really? Okay,
that had different advertisements.
There you go.
In different issues to cater directly to consumers that we knew or households that we knew were 21 plus.
That's so when I work with clients, one of the things I talk to them about is like, within your own product offering, there's different segments.
Yes.
And you need to market to each individual segment uniquely because you need to speak their language.
That's right.
And although you're selling one particular product, and this, alcohol's a little bit different, but although you're selling one particular product, their methods and motivations for buying is different than someone else. And so it's your job, especially nowadays with so much information and so much,
information overload.
Information overload. The only way you to punch through is to speak directly to that person one-on-one.
Yep. And
you have to speak to 50 of those one-on-ones indirectly so they know exactly who you're targeting. So that's interesting that they had the different types of magazines within that. Yeah.
So did that for another 3 years and then was tapped by Pharrell, who I'd built a relationship with years prior in my entertainment marketing role. As he was now becoming the Pharrell that we all know and wanted to launch his own lifestyle brand, upscale sport lifestyle brand called Billionaire Boys Club.
Yep.
And I said, dog, that's like a dream to run something like that. He was like, well, when I get the deal, you're the guy. He got the deal with Reebok, and I then became the brand director. So I launched Billionaire Boys Club and Ice Cream Footwear with Pharrell and Nigo. Kind of as a liaison between them and the Reebok brand, putting together the business plan, the vision, how it should be positioned. Went all across the world to identify all the different partners in terms of retailers we should work with because a brand
that was
like
very
that,
specific. That was very niche.
Very specific. I think brands like that, you have to be very intentional and prescriptive on who you work with and where the brand shows up because that's part of the brand.
Part of the brand.
That's part of the image, right?
Exactly.
Which is back to styling, right? It's almost like the guilty upon association. Right, and you're judged by those year round. So making sure that brand showed up in environments that were very consistent with the type of mindset and level of craftsmanship that we were trying to drive with that. So that was an amazing, amazing experience. And that brand is still going strong to date, which is awesome.
And which is crazy is now you bring that full circle with
and
Adidas.
And then we're working together again, which is, again, all God's plan.
Yeah.
When you look at how things happen and to be able to work with him now in this respect comes back to the significance piece. I told myself if I was going to come back in this industry after managing and being with our daughter, it was to be in a position where purpose was at the forefront and how could I leverage individuals or things that can help shift culture in the world in a place for the better. And so where P is right now from a purpose standpoint and what he's trying to do, he's trying to break down a number of barriers, whether it's for women, whether it's for people of color. He's just truly, truly committed to what I call creating a similar starting line for everybody. And what I mean by starting line, and I think we can all speak to this, or a number of people of color, we're not all given the same starting line.
No.
At birth, and then in school, and then in corporate or the working world. We all have very different starting lines for different reasons, and that's a whole other show that we can go into. Pharrell and people like Beyonce are all about minimizing the differentiation or the vast distance in the starting line, right? So if I'm able to work with people who are about that, that's the significance that I'm talking about. So it's no longer about success. The value to myself, been there, done that. It's about significance. And significance is what I've been blessed with having an opportunity to work with individuals like this who are all about helping to bring more value to many, 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 many people, and can, because their voice resonates so loudly and so authentically in this space.
Yeah, I've been heavy on, top-down approach, working in your purpose. Like I've actually have a camp, work in your purpose.
Yeah.
And from there, that should direct everything you do, not only for the clients you work with, but how you market yourself, how you brand, how you carry yourself. It's all about working in your purpose. And we could talk forever. Just to wrap it up, so what's next with you, Adidas, director of statement? What's next, and how is it working with them? I could ask this. The times now with social media and content and activations and pop-ups and all the things that you are a part of. How does it working with those type of individuals and their ideas, and also working with a corporation, and their ideas, how does that? I would imagine that's a interesting.
It is very interesting, and I think it's one that we take on that opportunity every day. I think you're looking at a brand that's enabling creators. Yeah. Right? And by enabling creators, we're doing so in a way that we're not just looking at one segment, right? Where that could have been just sport years ago. Now it's across all facets of youth culture, which is amazing. And I think when you look at our brand, is truly committed to, again, minimizing that distance in that starting line, providing platforms for women, right, to get more exposure, more credibility, more visibility within the things that they're doing. How are we making our world better through the sustainability lens? All these things are at the forefront of everything we do. So to be in a place and a brand that's about that aligns with purpose, because all those things are about bringing more value to many, many people, right? So it's not necessarily just about enhancing something on what some people might feel in a sport field, which we're also doing that as well. It's a much, much bigger play. Yeah. So that opportunity every day to go in to do that is very much exciting for me, very much. And then having people that you can put in place to actually execute against that, right? Because you have people who are truly passionate about things like that, but also having their skill set unlocked and being able to be utilized to do some special things. So to be able to provide an environment where you can enable people to do the things that they're truly passionate about, that for me gets me going every morning. Yeah, I can only imagine, man. Well, the show is called Style Speaks. We talked about style, the nonverbal communication and style of who you are as a person. So I'll end it with, how does your style speak for you? I think it speaks differently for different people in different scenarios. But I think at the grounding of it is, my style is one that's unique to me, right? I've always kept true to what makes me comfortable. And in me being comfortable, I think I can provide a lot of value for others around me. If I'm not comfortable, it's not really going to provide me with an opportunity to unlock and release a lot of the things that I think I can share or provide for many. So the more often that I'm comfortable in who I am, absolutely, the better I am for those around me, and what I think is helping to add value to hopefully them unlocking the best them in whatever they choose to do. And I just look at the small correlation going back to just even wearing jeans all the time to formal events. Now my thing is sweats. Yeah. Right? Like I always look into these different type of sweatpants that are comfortable but are a statement. Absolutely. Right? And I could wear them up or I could wear them down. But coming back to the style piece, that all is part of who I am inside, of finding my comfort zones and being committed to them and having people see the comfort in me being me, to hopefully be able to allow them to find the comfort and the confidence. And the confidence of being your true self. We have a society that very much leads people into thinking you need to be like this or like these type of people that we are putting on a pedestal, right? It takes a lot of work and a lot of confidence to not think that you have to be that, and be confident with being your true self.
There you go. Confidence is everything, man. Well, there you go. First episode, Style Speaks. Follow, subscribe, comment, share.
Great job. Keep telling your story.
Times, man. Absolutely.
Keep
Absolutely.
telling
I
your story.
appreciate you.
You're very welcome.
Till next time.